for what it's worth, over the last 15 years, I've made my name, my professional reputation on covering the American bishops and appointments here in the United States. One of my devoted readers is actually Bishop Malone, and I have the emails to prove it. That said, I know there have been various heraldings of, that this move would happen, but I haven't said anything until now, and part of the reason is because I did not have reports to me of a firm decision from Pope Francis in hand, and I didn't have a date in hand on which it would be announced. I have both now. And barring some bizarro thing at the last minute, which the Vatican is not above, simply to spite the press for reporting it beforehand.
Okay, so what are you hearing that are, the reasons behind this? Did this all sort of go down in Rome when the bishop was there? Did it reach kind of a boiling point with, we've had 2 whistleblowers now. We've had 22 months almost of scandal here. Had this kind of risen steadily to the top of the Pope's agenda here, so to speak, and it got to a point where he couldn't ignore it anymore?
Well, again, we can't look at it in the context of just, the Illumina visit that Bishop Malone and all the bishops in New York State were long scheduled to make in mid-November. We have to go back to the calling of the visitation in October. While at the time Bishop Malone's spokeswoman tried to discredit my reporting on that matter, she's conspicuously quiet tonight. It was made clear to me from the moment that was announced that the Holy Father, that Pope Francis himself, was deeply alarmed about the situation in Buffalo, and as opposed to there was a considerable sense that because the question of handling abuse cases was at issue, seemingly at issue from Charlie, from your reporting above all, that this would be the test case of the new global norms on sex abuse, what in Catholic circles we call Vos Estis Lux Mundi, for the document Pope Francis issued in May. However, there were enough other concerns in terms of the life of the Diocese of Buffalo, in terms of adult misconduct on the part of clergy, in terms of, what your recordings turned up, with Bishop Malone talking about a quote-unquote love triangle that involved his own priest secretary, allegedly. In terms of Christ the King Seminary, in terms of other controversies, and other, this transcended sex abuse. This became an issue of governance. This became an issue of what kind of pastor do the people of Buffalo have? And that's why the full apostolic visitation was called with Bishop Marzio. And, clearly he worked very quickly. Anyone who knows him would know that from the get-go. And, the fact that 2 months from the time that visitation began, here we are. In Roman, I know it's been a very long year and a half. The distrust, the cynicism of your folks in Western New York is massive, because people were always telling me when I was saying this is going to be a very thorough process, but it's going to be quick. A lot of folks out there kept calling me hopeful, but I'm realistic. I know how this process works. And the fact that within 2 months here we are, again, it's been 2 months too long for a lot of folks. It's been a year and a half too long. But in Vatican speed, this is breathtaking.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a case where they've moved so quickly?
Well, when a visitation is called, that's normally, again, it's, no pun intended, because you guys already have an FBI investigation underway. Now, remember, we haven't even begun to talk about the next bishop yet and the succession that's going to have to happen these next several months. But normally once a visitation is called, the Vatican always or tends to appoint, especially under Francis, someone who's going to act very quickly, very thoroughly. And But again, in Brooklyn, one of DiMarzio's nicknames is Nick the Quick. And because clearly once he was named, the expectation was that his report would be delivered to Rome by the time of that report, which had, again, long been scheduled by the bishops in New York State in mid-November. And from what I understand, and this had been reported elsewhere at the time, that Malone's resignation was already delivered to Pope Francis by the time of the end of that Elimina visit a couple weeks ago. But it seems that he just wanted time to prepare himself to be able to resign. But again, here we are, the train is in motion. Now, could something change tomorrow? Until the Vatican formally announces it, anything can change. But the train is in motion for this to happen in 36 hours.
Right. Okay, and then let's talk about the next step here. The Albany bishop. Why the Albany bishop? People in Buffalo probably don't even know his name. Why would he be a good choice here to step in?
Well, there are people in Albany who don't even know his name. It's tough to pronounce. Scharffen Berger. It's funny, somebody in Rome actually earlier who I was talking to about this, we coined the term baby Scharf. So, But anyway, Ed Scharfenberger, one thing that helps is that, because DiMarzio clearly has a very firm outside grasp of the Buffalo situation because of the visitation. And Scharfenberger is going to need that because, again, from, as it stands, 6 a.m. Wednesday morning our time, Scharfenberger is going to be in charge of Buffalo and Albany, so he's going to have to do halftime between both. It's not a desirable situation. Normally the Vatican would send in a retired bishop who physically and would be able to handle it, but in the case of New York State, the most salient option there would have been Bishop Robert Cunningham, who, as Vicar General in Buffalo, is figured into mishandling of cases under prior bishops. So that was not an option. And the Bishop of Syracuse, Bishop Doug Lucia, has only been on the job 2 months, and until that point he was in Ogdensburg. He's too new. And Bishop Salmatano, say, of Rochester, is already handling the Chapter 11 filing there, bankruptcy. Not as big of a docket as Buffalo, but still it's enough to deal with at home. So Scharfenberger really kind of boiled down to the only option. But again, having been a priest in Brooklyn under DiMarzio, having a familiarity with him, DiMarzio can kind of help guide him through what he's got to do. But again, just even in terms of legal, financial realities of the diocese, because, Buffalo is the largest upstate diocese of all. But this is a 5-alarm fire. He's not going to be left to handle it for long, for many reasons, but above all because the Pope, when it comes to the Pope, no news is good news in a way.
Right.
But the fact that Buffalo has been so much on Francis's mind and Francis's agenda personally means that no expense is going to be spared. And normally the naming of a new bishop would take somewhere between maybe 8 months and a year. For Buffalo, I think we can expect it by Easter, which, given the fact that there are 20 dioceses already open in the United States out of roughly 200, Buffalo is going to come immediately to the top of the pile. And the consultation of the diocese, which is normally the first stage of the process, is already done because of the visitation report. But plus, it is a priority for the Pope, clearly by the fact that he called the visitation, but now the fact that the visitation came out not in favor of Bishop Malone, to have stable, healthy, well-grounded leadership of the diocese that's ready to begin first healing, but also, too, trying to contain the damage of everything that's already come to pass.